Dr. Knuth is a professor at North Carolina State University who studies how people make decisions about plants, gardens, and environmentally friendly products. She combines economics, psychology, and agriculture to understand why consumers choose certain plants, how labels such as pollinator friendly or sustainable influence buying decisions, and how businesses can understand their consumers' behavior. Her research helps garden centers, farmers, and policymakers communicate and design products that are much better aligned with consumer needs.
Can you please briefly introduce yourself and your role at North Carolina State University and share what first sparked your interest in agriculture and horticulture, including whether this was always your intended career path or that evolved over time?
Hello, everyone. My name is Melinda Knuth. I am a professor at North Carolina State University in the Department of Horticulture. My background in agriculture starts from actually my great grandparents and my great great grandparents. My family has a homestead, original to when Lincoln started the Hatch Act.
Before we continue, let me give a bit of historical perspective. The Homestead Act of 1862, signed by Abraham Lincoln, was a law designed to encourage people to move west and develop farmland. Under the Act, any eligible adult could apply for 160 acres of public land by paying a small filing fee. To earn ownership, the settlers had to live on the land, build a home, and farm or improve it for at least 5 years. Improvement could include planting crops, building fences, digging wells, or constructing barns. After meeting these requirements, the land officially became theirs. Over time, the act led to the distribution of more than 270 million acres and helped establish thousands of farms, ranches, and rural communities. It played a major role in shaping American agriculture and the expansion of settlements across the Great Plains and western United States.
My background in agriculture starts from actually my great grandparents and my great great grandparents. My family has a homestead, original over in Minnesota, and then the other side of my family has another family homestead in Nebraska, up in the Valentine area. So I grew up around agriculture, I grew up around farming, but this is not something that I wanted to necessarily do as a career. I was very interested in doing agriculture to some degree, but I didn't want to do row cropping like my cousins. Was not a large interest of mine.
As a professor in the Department of Horticulture at North Carolina State University, Dr. Knuth's research explores not only how plants are grown, but also how people choose, value, and interact with them. While Dr. Knuth is a horticulture professor, her work goes beyond plants themselves. She studies an important question: why do people choose certain products, plants, and agricultural goods? Understanding those decisions can help farmers and companies better serve consumers. So now let's ask Dr. Kanu to explain this for us even better. What does consumer behavior mean in the context of agriculture and food systems? Why is it important for farmers and agriculture companies to understand how people make choices about plants and food? And can you share a simple real-world example of a problem your research helps address?
So, consumer behavior in the context of agriculture relates to how people make everyday decisions, whether it be buying fruits and vegetables versus processed foods, whether it be starting a garden or continuing a garden, whether it be uh, participating in viewing a landscape at a park or at a business. All of these different areas are involved in horticulture, which is part of agriculture. And so these are the things that I typically study as a human behavior specialist within the area of horticulture. It's very important for us to understand about people and about consumers because consumers are in the driver's seat when it comes to their consumption. Historically, we've understood supply chains to be whatever is supplied will be purchased. However, in the past 20 years, especially with the advent of Wi Fi and internet and searching online, social media, consumers now drive many of the comings and goings in the supply chains around products and services within our country. If we don't understand what people like and dislike and how they engage with agriculture products and services, it's very difficult for us to continue to provide what people are interested in and what they need. And it disrupts the whole supply chain as a whole. A great example of this is in the context of how I work with another faculty member in my department, so a fellow professor. What we are doing is we're understanding what breeding efforts he puts into the plants that he's growing and whether consumers like that. What that means on a basic level is he will not spend the energy, resources, and time to breed for a particular plant if I, as a consumer specialist, find that consumers are not interested in the trait that he is breeding for. So we save a lot of time, a lot of resources, and we get products to consumers quicker that they actually want.
Your research uses biometrics methods. What does that mean in simple terms? What kind of data do you collect and what can they reveal about how people really think and feel? How do these tools help make agriculture more scientific and data-driven? And how is this approach different from relying only on traditional survey questions?
So, in my research, while we evaluate what consumers are interested in, we don't just rely on what people tell us. We also rely on information about you as a person to know what you're thinking about and what you like and you dislike. For example, we study things such as eye movements, heart rate, and facial expressions. If you are very interested in something, you're more likely to lean forward and dilate your pupils, and your heart rate will increase slightly or greatly depending on your interest in the thing that you're looking at. These types of data that we collect are similar to what thinking like a poker player, where there are tells that tell us that you like this item. Sometimes what happens, especially in a research setting, is we ask someone a question and they'll tell us what they think we want to know rather than telling us truly what they think or what they're feeling in the context of the situation. We call this explicit and implicit behavior. Explicit, it's what you're outwardly expressing. For example, right now I'm talking. This is an explicit behavior that I'm doing, and I'm sharing this with you through my voice. An implicit behavior is my facial expressions and my eye movements, my heart rate, my sweat in the current moment. And so we can match these two or understand why they mismatch to best know what a consumer is feeling in the moment and also pair that together with types of questionnaires to know what they're thinking as well. By using biometric data, we bypass the social behavior and get down to what people are really want to say.
So now let's see an example on how studying consumer behavior helps. We are going to see how consumer behavior analysis can use facial expression analysis and emotional responses to understand and predict consumer behavior. The main idea is that we can learn more than just asking, do you like this? We can observe how people naturally react while viewing products or experiences. Now, the idea here is that we have an advertisement for Lay's potato chips, and we want to see whether this advertisement is working. We want to see whether people are paying attention to the Lay's chips, whether they are having a good time watching this advertisement. And while we are watching this ad together, please think of ways on how we can evaluate these assumptions.
Así. Una foto, por favor. Messi! Messi! Foto! Messi!
Levi's Lace. Señora, ¿una foto?
As we see in this video, researchers track consumer behavior by monitoring participants' reactions while they watch different advertisements for similar products such as Lay's potato chips and Doritos. Instead of relying only on surveys or asking viewers which ad they prefer, this study uses facial expression analysis, emotional tracking, and even eye tracking to capture natural reactions in real time across different groups of individuals, including variations in age, gender, and any other demographics or personal characteristics. By comparing viewers' emotion, attention level, and engagement across multiple versions of the advertisement, researchers are able to identify which ad generates a stronger positive response and captures greater interest for each of these groups. This demonstrates that even when promoting the same product, differences in presentation, storytelling, and emotional appeal can significantly influence consumer perception and decision making. It highlights how consumer behavior research helps companies understand not only what people choose, but also why they make these decisions. Similar approaches can also be applied in other aspects of horticulture and agriculture. Researchers like Dr. Knuth study how people respond to plants, flowers, food products, labels, packaging, and even sustainability messages. Understanding what attracts attention and influence preferences can help growers, farmers, and agricultural companies design products and experiences that better connect with consumers and improve decision making across the agricultural industry. What kinds of exciting career exist at the intersection of agriculture, data, and human behavior? What skills would you encourage students to start developing if they are interested in this space? And what advice would you offer to students who are curious about agriculture but don't see themselves as traditional farmers?
There's lots of careers, and I think this is somewhat misunderstood within agriculture is that there's only one type of job or one type of thing that you can do, and that's simply not true. There's so many different jobs from not only actually growing the products, but also marketing, logistics, sustainable agriculture, policy. There's all of these different types of roles, and those are not just it. That's just a couple examples that are incorporated. We need all these different people and all these different expertise in order to actually supply these products to the American public. And without each of these areas, we would not be as successful as we are. And so, any sort of job that touches products and services within agriculture, we need people for those roles. So, there's much more than just being a row crop farmer. Nothing wrong with that role, but there's many more things that can be done. As a high school student, if you're interested in going into a career path like what I have done, gaining more knowledge in areas of social science and social studies, as well as mathematics, are imperative. As you go through school, if you can learn more about psychology, business management, and statistics, these are skills that will be very important on more of the business side of agriculture and will pay off as you go through your education and beginning your career. Like I said, there's many jobs outside of just being a traditional farmer in the traditional sense that we think. I have been thinking about this a little bit when I was invited to do this interview, and I came up with a short list just to share. There's things like transportation, logistics, sales, marketing, manufacturing, lawyers, policymakers, textiles. There's so many different options to consider that really the world is your oyster. If you're interested in agriculture, there's a job for you in your skill set and in your area of interest.
If students take away just one key idea from this talk about agriculture and future careers, what would you hope it would be?
So, if you take just one thing away from what I've said today, just know there's a lot of opportunity. My job, what I currently do, didn't exist when I was a kindergartner. And now it's a specialized role that's highly desired and hired for in a lot of large corporations and medium corporations throughout agriculture, being a data human behavior specialist. So perhaps if you don't see a career path listed on a job board or with your counselors, that doesn't mean that your dream job currently is not in development or that you can't do your dream job. So understanding what you like. So I like math, I like people, I like business. You can match together all of these things that you like, and likely there's a career path out there for you.
Thank you all and see you in our next video.